Hey, welcome everyone to the ArchiCAD User Monthly Webinar. It is April, 23rd today, 2020, in the middle of the great COVID-19 pandemic. I'd like to welcome my two special guests today, Peter Twohy and Chris Dvorak. Hey, Chris. Hey, Peter.
How are you, Eric?
So we'll be getting started momentarily. Let us know that you can hear us and see my screen. Right now I'm sharing the screen that is just the ArchiCAD user website and a brief description of what Peter will be sharing with us. Let me know that you can see that. I see Todd. And when you're typing in, let us know where you're calling in from, which city or country, or both. So I see Fran, John from Salt Spring, Glenn from Auckland, Nicole, Berkeley. Okay, Mark, Thousand Oaks. Yeah, so Syracuse, Australia, England, Bermuda. You're not late.
I'll trade with the Bermuda person.
So Joe, you say that joined late. No, you didn't. We're just getting started. Okay, so Melbourne. So we're spanning certainly from Melbourne through Australia, US and Canada, of course. All right, so we are good to go here. So what we usually do is have a little chat. Right now, this is one of the rare times that I have multiple people. So you have Peter and Chris. So tell us a little bit about the firm, your work, and how you divide up your work together in terms of ArchiCAD. And I'm going to bring up your website just so people can see it. It's architects.com, and you'll see some beautiful work. Now, this isn't ArchiCAD. This is a real photo, right?
Yeah. Yep. Go ahead and hit that play button. It'll roll through a bunch of images if you do.
Oh, hit it. Okay, here we hit it. All right.
Okay, so it's like Eric said, my name's Peter. Chris is, the other half to Twohy Architects. So what I do, firm's like 15 years old. The first maybe 3 to 5 years, we did literally any project that would come along. I did basements. I did front porches, really just anything. And then as the projects, were successful, they got bigger and bigger and bigger over time. And about 6 years ago, I met Chris, and that was at the start of, I had this idea that I could offer unlimited three-dimensional drawings to all of my clients. So that those are the renderings that you would see, and that worked out really, really well. With ArchiCAD, and I did sometimes 30, 40, 50, I think the most was 60 renderings for a project, because they would, you set up the camera and you have the camera all set up to go, and it's not that difficult. So about, how long ago was it, Chris? Like 3 or 4 years ago? I think it was Henry Berger who put the bug in my ear, said, well, you might be able to do virtual reality. And that's when Chris really stepped up to the plate, because to do virtual reality, you've got to really do a good model, specifically on the inside. We tend to do good models on the outside, but the inside is harder. And so we together would go back and forth. Eventually, we bought a program called TWINMOTION, and then as soon as we did that, and really Chris is the genius behind this part of it, which is, how do you make a drawing go from, concept design through design development and then to the permit drawings, like a very linear process, and do virtual reality? So every time.
It was 3 years ago or so, Peter, and if you remember, where it started was not with TWINMOTION, but the BIMX, right? We decided to make a BIMX model, and I had purchased for $15 one of those VR headsets that you put your phone into.
That's exactly correct.
We decided to try that out with a client, and we brought the VR headset in and put my phone in there and put it in. The wife loved it. She just couldn't get enough of it. Husband was getting sick.
Right, because the quality wasn't, when you have really good virtual reality goggles, you move, it moves. But if you have bad virtual reality goggles, they have the refresh rate's too low for that. So so we had that as the issue. And then do you remember her father was there, who was a retired architect, and we couldn't get him out of it.
Yes, he was completely impressed because
Right.
it was a world he had never known as an architect.
Exactly. And so, in any case, you could stop the video. We've seen it a couple of times, and that's just representative work. But what's fun about what we do now is we bought a headset, HTC Vive. There's other options, and now we build these models, and people put the goggles on and walk through them. So what it really means more than anything is we have to be pretty particular about how we do the model so that it can do both. Because what I don't want, like every other architect, I guess, I want to make a profit. Really? Yes, I want to make a profit, and I want to pay Chris, and I want everyone to be happy. I want my clients to be ecstatic, all that, and so the only way that happens is that line has to be linear as it goes across. There can't be these huge deviations. And so when we got TWINMOTION like 2 years ago, or 2.5, or whatever it was, we learned how to do the model and combine it with TWINMOTION. So every time we do an update, we do a TWINMOTION update, and it just works really well. Have I answered the intro questions, Eric? I don't know. Oh, you're muted.
Can't hear him.
Yep.
Thanks for reminding me. I was typing away, so I didn't want the sound to come through.
Yep.
If we'll be able to take a look at the ArchiCAD models, and one of the things that we'll want to talk about here is how do you balance that work from design, creating drawings that get permits and can be built efficiently, with this whole presentation side. And where do you do things differently when you're thinking of making it hyper realistic or just very emotional? How much extra effort is it? And I'm just going to do a little teaser here. I've mentioned it in one of the emails that I sent out, but Peter and Chris and I are going to be producing a new course on VR for architects that is intended not only for ArchiCAD users, but also for those guys on the other side, or people on the other side, the Revit users, anyone who can take their 3D model into TWINMOTION, because that's going to be really, I think, a great asset for any firm in terms of providing higher quality service for your clients and winning more business, and in fact raising your fees without doing a whole lot of extra work, because you are leveraging your work. So we're going to be looking at ArchiCAD and modeling and design in that larger context of, how can you actually fit this all together? And you've been doing it long enough that you've got your best practices. You know what things work well, what things may waste time, and in fact, some of the ways that you don't waste time because the client sees things and goes, I get it. Well, I prefer this one, and you're exactly something, and they can make a decision. And we all know that in ArchiCAD, it's easier to see things in the 3D window than on, flat drawing. But this is going a little further, or a lot further. So let's switch presenters here so you can take over the screen. Now, is this going to be Chris, or is it going to be Peter who would be?
You've seen a couple of the videos. Let's start with Chris, and then what we'll do is we'll start. Which one do you want to start with, Chris? Ann's house?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so we'll start with Ann's house. So Ann McClure is a client of ours in Washington, D.C., and this is her parents' home. They've both since passed away. So the house recently came to her, and she wanted to renovate it. By the way, Ann McClure is an absolutely astonishingly good realtor. So if you're in the DC area and you need a realtor, we've got a fabulous one, Ann McClure. So that's the house when it started, right there. And it was very schizophrenic, with the stone and the brick and all that, and a little bit of siding, but not a lot. And then you could see our addition. Go ahead, Chris. I love how this, by the way, you know, he just puts on new construction and then it comes up, there it is. And so what we did is we painted the brick white and then added some siding. Added an addition on the right-hand side, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, let's do the plan, cutaway. Yeah, so you can see the master bedroom now on the bottom left, and then the family room as it goes, you know, that was the master, that's the family master bath. We kind of squeezed in there. You can see the shower with a little half wall for the toilet that's hidden. The dining room, and you can see we really opened up the dining room to the family room, and then beyond is the garage and the screened-in porch. But why don't we
just for reference?
Yeah. Yeah, again.
Interesting.
And in particular, the thing that Anne disliked the most about her house was that walking, well, there's a couple things. Walking into the home was very claustrophobic to her, that foyer, and the windows were very low in the house. So there was a lot of them, but they weren't letting in a lot of light. So those were the two things we attacked the most. And then lastly, her mom was a landscape architect, so the backyard is as lushly designed as possible. It's amazing. So we put that in the Twinmotion stuff, but not in this. So
we'll go to the foyer before.
Yeah.
So this is what you faced when you walked into the house.
Yeah,
and
that really is it.
It was really claustrophobic. 8-foot ceilings, you can't see through, and the idea was to open this up so that even though you can't do anything about the stair that's right there, we could open up the wall and you can turn this into a much more open plan space. We blew out the ceilings to raise the ceilings to give her as much light as possible in the back.
And that view to her and to the landscaping, which is the back kind of goes up. So in any case, why don't you do the great room view? We could talk about specifically how we, do that first. That's a good idea.
This is the dining room, and she had a low ceiling in here at the front of it. And again, we opened it up.
Yeah, we're not making any of that up, by the way. Obviously, you guys know that. So let's do that one, and then talk about, Chris, how we separated the drawing into Twinmotion and and how you kept going towards the construction drawings at all times, essentially.
Right. So we all know we can. I did a custom rail here, so I didn't use the railing tool in this particular case because we were creating some balusters that changed their positioning, and there was a different type of pattern. It wasn't a solid pattern. It was a 3 then 1 then 3 then 1, and I didn't want to try and figure out how to do that with the railing tool. But we build. Let's see if I go to the floor plan, I can show you. So the trim and everything that you see up here, I'm able to show in the floor plan with the object, so that the object becomes part of the reflected ceiling plan as well. It's the same object, and we use the reflected ceiling plan. It's not working. You're supposed to change these lines to solid.
Normally
it does.
Let's keep going. It's
okay. So
it does that well.
But the light fixtures that you see in the reflected ceiling plan, the reason I'm showing this is they're the actual lights that also show up in plan and in the 3D model, so that they're serving dual purpose. And in Twinmotion, those lights get activated for the lighting. In the Twinmotion model. What else did you want me to?
Well, one of the things that we've learned is that when you do a home's interior, it has to have a certain amount of detail Otherwise, it just doesn't convince people in virtual reality that it's real enough. And so we're always looking for ways to the casings, the doors that Chris always models a new door for every project. And then zoom into that cove light. We're going to reveal one of our mistakes. It's still there.
One question that's been posted, and I was wondering this, why are you using the older style line work 3D window rather than the OpenGL?
I could show you the OpenGL one.
Yeah, all you have to do is just switch under the.
I got the setting, because the OpenGL, we don't spend a lot of time with the surfaces in here, because in Twinmotion they have better surfaces, and so we use these for our presentations, the line view ones, because they just are a cleaner view for what we want to show the client in ArchiCAD.
Yeah, knowing what we're going to be doing in Twinmotion. So that so that little line, Chris, that. So we always make a bunch of glass. Use the we make the surfaces, we call it neon glass, and then in Twinmotion I'll make that into neon. And I think that the 2020 this is going to work, and in 2019 when we did this, it didn't. That the neon will actually glow. In 2019 it doesn't glow, so then we'd have to add light to that. But with all of the recessed cans, we have that neon glass, and it really adds to the look of a recessed can. So light's coming out of it in Twinmotion, and you see that bright light that you would from from a recessed can. So it's just a beautiful way to add. What you're trying to do is, when people put those goggles on, you're literally trying to trick them into thinking they're really, really, really inside their home, and we've done it. So it's amazing. It's the details, like the
I'm going to go to the great room. I'm going to go to the screen porch view to show you some of the other details that we focus on now because of Twinmotion.
But again, Chris is always thinking in the back of his mind about the the construction drawings. We never stray too far. Yeah, go ahead and talk about the. Go ahead, Chris.
I used to use the complex profiles to build a wall to give it texture, right? And so you could build this siding into the complex profile of the wall. But over time, I found that, doing that, intersections of walls would have weird intersections when you had different types of complex profiles coming together. So what we started doing was keeping this just a regular composite wall right out of the box from ArchiCAD, but then making a complex profile, which is, I'll open it up here, which is just.
You're gonna have to zoom in, right?
Just the siding. So we built just an individual surface, and I multiply it a bunch of times to get a height that is going to be taller than what I need throughout the project. And then go back to the project, and then as you can see when I zoom out, the wall is actually going way up here, and we just trim it with the roof then. So then you have the 3D shadow lines. Same thing goes with the beadboard ceiling. And so we tried to do the same thing with the beadboard ceiling. This is, we tried to make it just one big composite that was all the beadboards. Right. Found out in Twinmotion that these grooves, even though they were modeled in the composite, weren't showing up well in Twinmotion. So we ended up making, it's a little bit more tedious here because we got to make individual boards. But once you make one, you just copy it and array it.
Those lights are out of the box, right, Chris?
Yeah, these lights are the out of the box fixtures from the lamps.
Right.
Okay. So,
but then we take one of the surface, the glass surface, and make that neon glass.
Right. I had to actually
I remember
build
now.
we built a slab for because when you just did the light by itself, the surfaces you couldn't select the surface in Twinmotion to change it, to isolate it. So we did a disc, which is basically just a slab tool, which is about 1/4 of an inch thick, and put it up in line and created a linked object, a grouped object for the light, so that we can change just the surface of that in Twinmotion for the neon light that we use in Twinmotion.
And Chris, for just a quick second, go show the floor, with the other.
So this is the OpenGL view.
Yeah.
That we did spend time on, because in Twinmotion they didn't have a stone pattern that we liked. It was the first time we had not found a pattern in Twinmotion that we liked better than ArchiCAD.
Mm-hmm.
And ArchiCAD actually didn't have this pattern either. We went out to search for stone patterns on the web and just clipped a picture and created our own material with a texture from that photo. And we can scale it in order to get the view we want.
And that comes right into Twinmotion. Then I can also add a little, they call it bump or something like that. So
bump mapping.
Yeah, so it'll look, very, very realistic. Go to that master bedroom view so that we can just see one of the reasons we.
This illustrates the siding and the shadow lines we get and the articulate details. So there's two different ones in this particular case. This is a 4-inch lap and this is a 6-inch lap. And then the nice thing about this is it's a thin wall, and I just use the opening tool to create the opening around the windows.
Mm-hmm.
So if I turn off, you'll see this. If I just turn off this layer, I think this should be on a layer that can shut off. So you see, this is the regular composite wall with just the drywall, the sheathing, and the insulation, and the windows in that wall. And then the trim, the siding is just a separate wall that you cut an opening in. So you don't have to use solid element operators to trim it.
So are you using a simple opening then in that exterior?
Yeah, it's just a simple opening. So if I isolate this one, you'll see it's just a window opening.
Right. Okay. So one question came in: have you tried CAD image coverings for wall claddings?
No. What is it?
Okay. So just as a note to everybody, CAD image makes some great add-ons for ArchiCAD, including some for making wall coverings like this, as well as roof tiles. They make other add-ons for stairs and things like that, but the coverings one is fairly unique, and you might want to try that. Don't know how well it'll work with Twinmotion, but in general, their stuff is very good and easy to work with, because that's the
right. And what I like about the way Chris does this is it gives us the ability to put trim wherever we want it, separate. This kind of detail is something we do fairly frequently, where we have 2 different exposures. That's not unusual for us. And so I like that we get this flexibility, and it seems like an extra step, but it's worth it. Let me play Ann's video. Why don't you give me the record, so you could just see now that you've seen the house in ArchiCAD, what it looks like in Twinmotion.
Do I have to? You control that, or me?
I'm making you the presenter, Peter. So go ahead and show your screen.
Show my screen.
Okay, there we go.
And then I'll just play it. Come on, hurry up. So what you're seeing all the lush landscaping. Butterflies are a good add-on. I usually put them near the front door. A little bit of motion, not too much. I don't want the people moving around too much. That stone was an exterior that we also came up with. The camera can move in very dramatic ways, so I like that. Very cinematic ways. That's a basement stair. We didn't put the railing in. We were lazy. But again, you can see the detail for the screened-in porch. And now we come through that landscaping that, Ann's mother made, very, and you can see now those, the neon lights in the down lights above. A little bit of wine, never heard of rendering. Plenty of orchids. And now that floor that you see as you walk through the mud room, it looks really good in here. It looks, it's convincing. And now we get to the main rooms of the dining room and the family room, and how that's selling this project, this right here. She was just astonished that her house could look like this. And
it wasn't something that she could really see when she first saw the elevations and stuff that we had given.
Exactly. And again, so that's, I think you guys get the idea. Why don't we give it back to Chris? Can't hear you.
All right, so let me make Chris the presenter.
Switch over to.
Yeah, go ahead
So
and do
before we go on, there are a couple of questions I want to just get in while
Sure.
here. So when you make walls out of the complex profiles like that with all the boards, is it preferable from a performance standpoint, or have you tested a single fill versus multiple fills? Because you had, one fill that you repeated as opposed to one longer polygon.
I hadn't tried it. It was just easier for me when I was creating that to make it whatever height I wanted instead of drawing it individually. I could just make the one siding size. And the nice thing about that is if I decide I need to change that, like I want to do a 3-inch exposure or something, I just open up the one that's a 6-inch exposure. I delete all but one and I shrink the one fill down, and then I rearray it. So it's just easier to recreate different sizes that way.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so we'd rather do one for ease, and it hasn't been a problem either way, I don't think, from a file management perspective.
I don't think the number of polygons or the calculations are particularly different. So
Right.
if it's easier for you, go with that. Yep. Other questions? So you model all your lights, or are they downloaded from suppliers?
All the lights that we used in that one were right out of the box.
Right out of the ArchiCAD library.
Yeah. So, and the same with this one. Let's see. I'm gonna, on this model here, I'll show you. This will have some other lights too. These are also out of the box lights. All these lights are the same fixture in ArchiCAD, which is the lamp, right? And you can, let me just select one of them and we'll look at it real quick.
But again, the next, yep.
Same lamp, we just changed the things.
Right. So this is in design development. So the lamps haven't been officially chosen yet in this job. And so these are very good placeholders. I do think a next level that we're going to get to in not too distant future is downloading from, manufacturers' websites and being very specific about the lights, but we're not there yet.
Right, and a lot of times the manufacturers, when we've had specific lights that were selected by the client that they wanted to see, the manufacturer didn't have a 3D object made, so we made our own. Right. I can show them.
Yeah, well, wait till we get there. Wait till we get there.
So another question. You have a lot of landscaping that looks quite natural in the TWINMOTION file. Is it possible to bring TWINMOTION landscape elements back into ArchiCAD?
No, not possible. So what's great about TWINMOTION is that when, let's say in Chris's view right now, they decided they wanted 5 lamps instead of 3, or 1 big lamp or whatever, pendants over that island. Chris would then make whatever change they want. We update the drawing in TWINMOTION and it's changed. So we're never going backwards. We're always moving forwards with the TWINMOTION, always, always, always. And so to me, that's a huge leap in technology. So we can do virtual reality when we just have the outside of the house. We haven't gone inside. We just walk them around the outside. They get super excited, and then we move in, a month or so later. So that's but it doesn't go back and forth. It only goes one way.
So you revise the model, you add detail to it, and then the VR model just gets revised or updated as well.
Right, and let's use the landscaping just as an example. So when you see the interior views that we have, and you're looking out the windows, we've landscaped it in the initial concept design, and so you can see that landscaping. Again, it's all done, and we're pretty excited.
I could show you something here. Like what we did in this particular one is we were creating a grove of trees, right? And instead of using the ArchiCAD trees in the model here, because they take up so much memory.
They do.
They're really not very attractive trees to begin with. We just put these little columns in there for the placeholder so that when we get into TWINMOTION, we can either replace it in TWINMOTION using a function in TWINMOTION to just replace all of those objects with the trees, or just place them individually. But it's a way for us to give ourselves a guide going into TWINMOTION so that we know where to place it. So we're not just randomly trying to do it.
Exactly.
TWINMOTION.
Okay. Another related question about library stuff. Where do you get objects like special chairs, tables, etc., to populate the interiors?
So TWINMOTION has a pretty good supply of those, and they're more and more people are making things for TWINMOTION. I haven't felt the need we've done maybe a dozen houses in TWINMOTION, maybe slightly more. I haven't felt the need to go get more, but I'm getting close to that because we have the same artwork in a dozen houses, the same chairs. We use some ArchiCAD chairs, some whatever, but the same beds and the same everything for job after job, which is starting to get old for me. The clients are not saying that, but for me. So I'm thinking about it, and there are plenty of places to look around for that stuff. But I will add, the one thing is, again, in contact with friends of mine who do this, furniture in particular can really make the file size get astronomically large. So you do have to be careful about that.
Right. Okay. Another question about TWINMOTION. So we should spend some time today, even if you're not going to be doing a training on TWINMOTION, but at least inside the TWINMOTION environment. A few things, but question, does it have a lot of surfaces and materials as part of the software, or do you need to purchase additional surfaces?
No, it has a lot. So I've not purchased a single surface. We've made some surfaces which we like. The stone wall was one, the stone floor was another. Stone is the one that they have the most trouble with. I don't know why. But I've not bought a single surface or anything there's no need.
So I do see a nice note from Joe Archibald saying SketchUpTextureClub.com is a great website for textures to load into your ArchiCAD surfaces library. So
Which
check
one is it again?
SketchUpTextureClub.com. Okay. Are you using the opening tool? So when you have the exterior separate wall, are you using the opening tool or just the window opening?
It's the window opening, basically. It's the window tool, and it's just it's this one here. It's this, just a rectangular opening.
Yeah. Okay. So
and I stretch the opening big enough to go around the trim of the window that's actually placed in the wall.
But we could do it with arches, if we had to, or anything else. So it's.
And if you have a complex shape, obviously you might have to create a cutting plane and use solid element operator in that case. But for the most part, we haven't had to do that with the windows that we've done so far.
All right. So.
All right. Interesting. I'm just looking at some of the notes here. what is the price or cost difference between what is presented today and conventional prices? And I'm not quite sure what, this is William Sadler asking, and I don't know if price or cost difference between, so maybe when you do design, do you have a conventional price and then the price when you model it all up and make it VR, or is it just that's what Twohy Architects is known for?
So when clients interview me, I'm actually interviewing them, and so it's both and, not either or. And if they don't want the VR, I don't want them as clients, so I don't accept them as clients. And so for me, it's a sort of a dedication, devotion, passion for the design. They either have it or they don't. If they don't have it, then I don't want to work with them. And having said that, I'm not only looking for the most expensive projects, but I am looking for the people who have that high passion for design work. So we're interviewing for a job that's probably less than 200 grand, but the woman is super nice, and so I'm kind of excited to, she has not signed up as of yet, but I'm hoping that she does. And again, it's not going to be the most lucrative job, but she seems, really, really interesting. That's, Chris.
And she was very excited about the 3D that we were offering, meaning she appreciated the value of what we were giving her.
Exactly.
You use another layer for the coverings of the walls, so that allows you to hide or show selectively.
Correct. Those 3D objects, like the siding, complex profile, all of the trim on the outside, we typically use like a 3D exterior trim layer that we can turn on and off, so that the model can, when you're designing and building it, it's just easier to be able to shut those things off and isolate them to make changes.
Okay, so we're starting to see some other questions related to, the technical side of ArchiCAD, such as schedules for lighting things. So I think we want to spend a little time looking at your sections, looking at your layouts, organization, and looking at things like the data that you have.
Let's see. I'll go back to Ann's then. I can.
Yeah, do Ann's for a second, and we'll save the Waterfall House for last.
Okay. So I will go through the typical set. Okay. So we have a cover sheet that we have basic code information and some notes on, and then just a particular image, the key image of the project, so to speak.
How do you get the background to have the trees? Is that
okay? All right. There's a trick. So Peter actually taught me this one. It's if I take it away, it's just a photograph. And in this particular case, it's actually the same photograph 2 different times because if you stretch just the one photograph, it distorts the trees, but you can overlap them and overlay them, and you get.
So we have about probably 4 or 5 or 6 even backgrounds, and we choose whichever one's closest to the actual job.
Very clever. I like that. Very simple.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And you can there was one project that Peter had gone out and taken photos of. It was a brand new project, so he just took landscape photos from one position on the site, and we used those as the backdrops. So this is since this is a renovation, we also have the demo plan using renovation filter layers.
Ooh, that we call it the Bart Simpson. Zoom in on the Bart down there.
Oh.
So this is how our workflow works. Like we have a little bit of work to do on that basement bathroom, and so we just throw that in to remind us to, in this case, it's add a couple of notes. But
one thing we didn't say in the beginning, which I think is relevant here, is I live in Woodbridge, Virginia, and Peter's up in Baltimore. We don't work in the same office, so we have a virtual meeting on every day where we share screens, and we'll go through, and I call it hand and brain at times, because I'm the one operating the the electronics here and drawing everything, and Peter's just telling me, all right, do this. And so when he wants to tell me something to change so that I don't forget it, because I'm over 50 now and I forget things, I circle it with this, what we call Bart Simpson. Anybody who watches The Simpsons, you know, Bart
No,
Simpson's hair looks like that. So, and it's just our way of, you know, noting things up so that when I go back to work on it, I know where I have to go, and we'll add notes. And
all the time.
sometimes
Anyway.
Peter will take the set and add the notes and then send them to me the next day, and I'll know what to do.
Yeah, exactly. All right, keep going.
All right. First floor plan.
Yeah, I think everyone sort of knows what these are.
So the one thing I guess I can show, which some people probably know about, is, you know, when you're doing options for floor plans. So this is one. The renovation filter tool can allow you to do 2 different options on the same plan without different layers. Because I don't know if you can see, I'm gonna have to pull my thing out here because it's not there. So this is one basement option we did, and then this is the other basement option. Why is it?
No, it's not.
I know it's not.
We might have gotten rid of it because it was gone. You know what I mean? But there was a completely different option, and all of the
There it is. So the walls, for instance, this wall here, it's on the same interior wall layer, but it is, this little box here pins it to this particular renovation filter. So when I go back to the other one, and I'll just use this, go back to this one, again, this interior wall is still on the same layer, but it's pinned to the new construction renovation filter. So you don't have to create a different layer for option 1. That's the way I used to do it before I learned how to utilize the renovation filter tool to its.
Chris, can I give you a couple of ideas that might tips? So one is, in your demonstration here, just press down on the renovation filter and switch between them.
I think it was, there you go.
That's leaving the same layer combination and everything else. We're still in the same view. It's very easy to see as you switch from one filter to another. Just like existing to new, you're also switching from scheme 1 to scheme 2.
Exactly.
And the other thing is that when your views, like the basement plan, the one that's currently highlighted, if you open up its settings, there's a little checkbox that says ignore zoom and rotation. It's in the bottom left.
Yep.
If you click on that and you have that turned on, then when you switch to that view, it won't jump you out to the whole, you know, to a saved view of the whole thing. So you can jump to that view, whether you're going to the ceiling plan or scheme 1 or whatever. So I like doing that because you can just jump between different views of the same story without particularly moving around in space. It allows you to stay in the same location. So.
All right, so we change that. Let me go to, I'm gonna skip, I'll do the elevations. You're gonna see in the elevations, we removed the trees. I think they're gonna be off to the side here because this is in almost permit ready set.
Right.
So we know in the schematic design phase, we'd have those trees behind the elevation as well, just for graphics. But once we move to that, we push them off to the side, this sheet.
Zoom in a little bit.
Yep.
So I noticed another little tip for everybody, and of course you can choose, Chris, whether you want to use it. When you go to a sheet, if you don't want it to be updating because, hey, you know, you haven't really changed the model, you can select all those drawings and say manual update. This means when you go to the view in your view map, it'll update, but that way when you're flipping between pages, it'll instantly come up. It won't be forcing you to wait.
Yeah, we have all of ours set to auto just so that I don't forget to update them when it's time to actually make the printed set. But yes, that's that. When I have in the beginning phases, I'll set them to that so that I can move around quickly. So here's just the section page, a couple elevations, but then
And you zoom in on a section. I want to see how much detail you're putting into these.
this one's not that much because we hadn't really modeled the structure in here in great detail. So I used some fill patterns to do this because we were trying to just get a pricing set from the contractor. This one is one that we did do in a little bit more detail. And I've done it both ways where I've tried to make a complex profile that has all these built into it already, but found that it was just too complicated at certain intersections and too much problems in the model. And so I still add the insulation as a 2D symbol and the studs. These are actually just, I'll open the section itself so we can see. It's actually just an object, the out of the box ArchiCAD detail stud. And so I come back in, if I shut all those off, this is the base section, which is just the model parts. So the insulation is built into the wall composite, so I don't have to place that. But everything else.
How are you doing the roof overhang? When the roof changes from a over the space to sticking out.
That was cut. I got to let me turn the layer combination back on. You'll see. So this wall. Let's see, how did I do that? Oh, in this particular case, I did it with a fill pattern.
Yeah, but normally you use a complex profile around.
Right. There's a complex profile roof that we have.
In the stone cottage, right? There's a good one for that. We actually separated that detail out.
Yeah. If I go here.
Go to the, what is it, dining room fireplace? No.
Yeah, this is the one. So, whoops, too quick. So we made two different complex profiles, one for the end piece to make a clean end, and then this one here is it's a soffit that we built, and we stretch it only. We have this is the only stretching point because all these dimensions were set.
Mm-hmm.
And we've also experimented with the ability to put parameters and modifiers so that you could change this separate from the overall height if you wanted. But haven't done a lot of it. Only once or twice have I tried using that.
All right, now the roof volume though, that's the other question is, so the roof has a certain, do you have a cladding on top of a main roof?
We do it two different ways. It depends on the model. In this particular one, since this was still in the schematic phase, you can see this roof plane is one thickness and it goes all the way through. And it's not the full rafter.
Yeah, so Eric, oftentimes when we get to a certain point, I'll model the roof but just the fascia, and because that's what we can see, and then I'm playing around with angles and whatever else I do, and then Chris takes that and then he decides what to do. So sometimes he leaves it and sometimes he doesn't, depending on
right. And in this particular roof, I didn't do the actual framing, but on this roof, you can see I have the one roof which ends up being my fascia trim. Mm-hmm. And then I do another roof on the inside, which stops at the wall and is my rafter. Right. So the rafter doesn't go all the way out, it stops at the wall. And then I trim the upper roof with that roof. So that when I do
those two with the overhang, they are both exposed, so you might see a line between them?
No, they're not. The rafter one here stops at the inside face of the wall, so that this roof is the only one coming through. Then I use this other piece of trim. In this particular case, was a two-piece trim, and so I just used another roof on the outside as a regular trim piece. So in this particular case it's three different pieces to form that total roof structure.
Which in this case was helpful because, you know, this is kind of on me a little bit. You know, I'm an architect, therefore I reserve the right to change my mind. And so, you know, this design went through several iterations. And so we wanted to give us the opportunity to move them around a little bit. And so that was maximum flexibility, maybe not maximum efficiency though.
We also, to create this fireplace, again, created a complex profile.
Yeah, this is cool.
We designed the section of what the trim was going to look like. And in this particular case, this was the easiest way to create that because it was the same all the way through. So all we had to do then was draw, it's just a wall then. And you follow the contours and you create that look instead of building it with individual pieces.
Right, and this is part of that, you know, convincing people that they're really in a home. You know, this is part of that.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see the door trim. You know, the casing around the doors looks interesting. The doors themselves will also, again, the lights, and then the plan, people,
So
all that help.
All right, what else? This one was another complex profile that we created and then just added a couple vertical members to create the panels, right? So you have one big continuous opening and then just break it up with trim pieces to get your panels. And you can space them any way you want then.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so
Okay.
where do you want to go next? And any other questions?
So I'm seeing some, while you're in the kitchen, what method do you use for ArchiCAD kitchen design? I'm not sure what that means, what method, but you know, just talk about how you start out with, you know, a concept and at what point you start putting in individual cabinets and choosing details and things.
Okay, so Peter, in the beginning phases, we do things with just 2D lines and plan because we'll do the plan design first with minimal detail in the interior. And once we get sign off and buy-in on the schematic design, moves to design development is when we start to model the cabinets.
Mm-hmm.
So this is past the design development phase. So we went it all out, and this was a custom built hood based off of roofs and walls that I built myself to get the look we wanted, because there was no out of the box range hood that looked like that.
Right. So then, and then those end panels, you know, we're pretty particular about what islands look like and what the, you know, cabinets with glass up there look like. And so how'd you do those?
These end panels are just the cabinet tool, and they're 4 inches thick so that I can get the door. So the door panel is a door, okay? So it's the same as this cabinet. We just made it 4 inches thin so that we could choose the same door style.
Warren died. He's gone.
I'm sorry.
So, and then in terms of surfaces and stuff for Twinmotion, the out of the box surfaces on the cabinets we found weren't always unique to the model. So when we would go into Twinmotion to change the surface of, say, this cabinet door and drag and drop in Twinmotion, it would change maybe a wall we had placed that had the same surface. And because there's some out of the box things in ArchiCAD that have just base surfaces, like general interior material, exterior, general interior. So we create custom surface names for our objects so that we can then, let's see, so right there we have the Twohy kitchen cabinet 1 and kitchen cabinet 2. So
That's
that then
right.
we know that there's not going to be another part in the model that's going to have that surface except for the ones we put it on.
Right. And they can have the same surface. Like if we decide that all of the cabinets are going to be white, Twohy kitchen 1 and Twohy kitchen 2 are both white. That's not a problem. But oftentimes the you know, the island gets a different color or surface of some sort, and you know, and more. So so we like to give ourselves maximum, again, flexibility through the design process, and it wouldn't be unusual for us to say change this whole back wall from, like back here, Chris, with the range hood, all that back wall changes from 1 to 2 or something like that. So we, but it's easy enough to do because we've got the surfaces ready.
Right.
Can you
And then
show your surface list? Because I noticed you had them grouped at the top. You put a prefix for the characters.
yeah, when we first
You have zero
we put the
underscore.
0 because we want them to come to the top of the list so that they don't get lost in amongst the alphabetical list. And you can see some of the naming conventions were brought in from other projects where the old naming convention where it was just
Exactly.
Twohy at the front.
Yeah, we're getting better. We're not that you know, we're
Yeah,
getting
I
better.
like using an asterisk, just a star at the beginning. It will float to the top as well.
No, I hadn't thought of that. The 0 seemed to be the one thing that worked for me, and I didn't even think of it the other way. I think I got the idea from, you know, the out of the box ArchiCAD stuff where they had numbers in front here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, let's go through that covered porch. Did we do the plan cutaway just so people get an idea what this house looks like? I don't know that we did that one.
No, I don't think we did. Not on this house.
So while we're still in here, how are the coffered ceilings done?
Oh shoot, switching away from it now.
Yeah, but you are they walls or are they slabs?
They're typically walls, and
Yeah.
and the crown trim that you see in there is the out of the box crown trim in ArchiCAD. There's 2 different ways you can do it as an individual straight trim, or there's a 4-sided piece. I'll go back to it so I can. Oh, my computer is.
Yeah, when you're doing the vectorial drawings with shadows, it does slow. It's much slower than the OpenGL. So
Right.
It's true.
All right, so I'll go back and so I can highlight for people the difference. So this here, I believe, is going to be. I used a slab for this one. I built the slab, and then the crown trim in this particular case is the out of the box trim 4-way, which was actually a third-party object I had downloaded. See the 6.5 next to it? It's all the way back at ArchiCAD 6.5, and I've just kept it because it works, and it works quickly for a typical rectangular crown trim detail instead of doing individual pieces.
But we've learned that you can obviously, most people probably know, edit in 3D in real time in section everywhere else, the walls, heights and widths and everything, but slabs, you can't do that. So so we tend to make those elements walls if we can.
Right, and we've even gone to the point of making crown trim out of a complex profile so that we can then just draw it like a wall.
Exactly.
Yeah, you can also use the beam tool. So
there's lots of ways. Again, we get into a lot of detail relatively early in the project, and so we're looking for maximum flexibility, and we need to get that detail because again, the virtual reality environments are going to live and die with that detail. So that's you know, so we really do lean on Chris's expertise to create the environments that are suitable for virtual reality, because that's the big hurdle, getting the model to be perfect.
I don't know if this still has it. We had done board and batten on this at one point, and trying to do board and batten and get it 3-dimensionally is always problematic. And you know, aside from modeling the battens as individual walls,
which you've done,
which I've done, and I have started using in 21 and 22. I've used the railing tool to just do the battens.
Yeah, which works really well. Same thing with standing seam metal roofs.
standing seam metal roofs, we use the roof tool, the roof maker tool, to create your standing seams. Basically, the roof maker tool does, I'm going to go up here and where is it? There it is, roof extras. So the roof maker tool, I got to select a roof to do it. I'm going to switch this over to the OpenGL.
It didn't flip to the OpenGL.
It did not. This is something that's started happening recently, Eric, and maybe there's something I'm missing. I'll be in a view, and I'll go to switch just down here to the OpenGL, and after I've been doing stuff, it doesn't recognize it. Now it did this time, right? But every once in a while, like just there, I had switched it down here, and I switched it, and it still decided that I hadn't changed anything. And then I'm not able to touch. I'm not able to select anything at that point. It's like the program kind of locks up without locking up. Do you know what I mean? But if you take a roof and you go up under design and roof extras, go to roof maker. I guess I got to do it in plan. Let's go roof plan. There we go. Create rafters, and you can define the size of the rafter to be basically the size of a standing seam metal roof, right? So a 1/2 inch by 1/4 inch, whatever. And then when you trace it on the roof, I'll try and do it. I don't know if I'm going to be successful in the first try here, but I'm going to create multiple rafters, and they're going to be really big for starters. I'm going to show the layer, and then I'm going to let's try this again. I have to select the roof itself. There, and so when I go back to the 3D view, show all.
Yeah, just the roof. You don't need everything.
Yeah, I know.
Are they underneath?
They're underneath.
Yeah, normally you had to do like some sort of negative number, I thought.
Yeah. It puts the rafters underneath the roof, and what you normally have to do is you got to lift it up on top of the roof. I wish I had the.
You can hide that roof layer.
Oh, there they are. Yeah. So if I had taken the time, you can set the heights and stuff, and either drag this up. This would be put on a separate. I would put it typically on an exterior 3D layer, and then just drag it up on top of the roof, and that helps give you depth and texture on your.
Which, by the way, is a huge advantage for Twinmotion, because Twinmotion has metal roofs and they sometimes work, but if a house with this complex a roof, it would never work. So you would have roofs the metal going in wrong directions, and you can't change it. So that Chris can draw them relatively simply, and then we get beautiful shadows and all that. It's amazing. So it's again, it's one of those things that we need to put into every project. It works great.
Well, there's the plan view.
Yeah, so it's a again, relatively complex house, 4-car garage, but the neighborhood only allows 2-car garages, so we'd stack them, which is we talked about doing stacking them vertically, but in this case we stacked them horizontally. And we're trying to give them spaces that open up to one another, but we define each room by their ceiling heights, and so it's a nice little design.
Oh,
Ooh,
and
and
for
we
the
can do
TWINMOTION models, we have
yeah,
created a three-dimensional logo so that in the movies in TWINMOTION,
you can
you can
see it.
always have your company logo in the movie. So when you send these movies out to a client, you want to have some kind of copyright on them, and this is the built-in copyright.
Right, and they send them to their friends. We send them in little chunks, so they're easy to email. And so, so we have, people, and they can't wait to do it. So it's like another built-in marketing, that they get what they want, and then they can't help but share it with family and friends, which works great. Yeah, so this, so you can see a section through the covered porch, but in the background you see that fireplace. Go ahead to the next one, Chris, and we'll look at that detail. We got to keep kind of moving. So again, Chris draws these with enough detail that we can really, it sells the project. And so in Twinmotion, I'm going to add fire to those logs in the fireplace. But those logs are just beams, right, Chris?
Yes, the logs are actually, I believe they're a cylinder. Yeah, the cylinder tool.
Right. It could be beams. We've done them both ways. And then they can be wood too, and then that looks good.
And then the casing on top of the doors was just made out of walls because you couldn't get this custom casing on the standard door part. So I build those individually. Still waiting for ArchiCAD to give us the power to do a custom casing profile.
So I'm sorry, I was answering some questions here. How are you doing the casing around?
This casing on the top of the doors is just walls. So it's three different walls that I've grouped together. So if I suspend the groups, you'll see that it's a piece that's made out of 4 parts. And I basically make one of them, and then I copy it over a door, and I just have to stretch it the distance for the door. And so they're set on a different story. So that's another thing about the way we set things up. This is on the 3D basement layer. So instead of having just, basement, first floor, second floor, we use a 3D story in between where we put all of our 3D objects for the story above, right? So then those casings for the doors are these. And then I just have to ghost story the first floor to be able to stretch them the proper distance for the windows. That's the window casing. It's the same casing I used on all the windows and doors in this house. So if I go back over this door, you can see it here. So that way I can change it very quickly and not have to worry about selecting walls and things. I can stretch it up here very easily. I've also used complex profiles too for the casing.
Yeah, exactly. So do you want me to show the movie of this one? We got that.
Okay. Let me make you presenter here. And of course, we do want to get into beyond movies, just the actual Twinmotion environment before too long. We're an hour and 8 minutes in, so.
Yeah. Okay, so show my screen. So this is that house. You're seeing it?
Yep.
Oh, and I've added music now too. And we got one more house to do, so.
Maybe we can demonstrate some of the Twinmotion stuff with the other house.
Yep. So again, very cinematic camera movements. I do a lot of with depth of field too, so you can't quite see what's in the distance. Those trees kind of go away. This is a pretty dramatic look. People like this. Again, they want to share it with their friends and family. They were concerned that the backyard wasn't big enough, so I did that move in particular. Clouds look good. There's that floor, which looks to me right now a little bit too small scale-wise in the screened-in porch. I tend to put people inside the house because it helps with that parallax. You get the depth feeling. We've now since solved. There's a little bit of flicker with the windows, we've solved that, but you can see a fire with logs there. So that's how we do fire in the logs. And again, a very cinematic camera movement. Lighting is obviously critical. You know, tables set, you know, we're having a party. Yeah, that flicker, we've solved that now so that we don't have that issue anymore.
We're not seeing the flicker particularly, at least
Oh, you're
I'm
not getting it? That's good then. I won't talk about it. So here's, I wanted just to get to this. The fireplace, you know, again, has a lot of detail. And so it just shows up well right there. You know, again, that's, you know, people get fired up when they see stuff like that.
So one of the things that I know you're going to be talking about a little later, but this is fantastic communication. And it used to be that to get an animation like this, you had to render it frame by frame in a high quality rendering setting, either in ArchiCAD or in something like Atlantis, and it would take a very long time to do. How long does it take in Twinmotion to generate a video?
Yeah, so the so this video probably took me the grand total of start to finish, maybe 6 hours. So that's 6 hours of putting in the landscaping, putting in all the lights, putting in everything that's not in ArchiCAD, the people, and then selecting the time of day, selecting the weather. You know, oftentimes I'll do you know, a snow scene, you know, and this is your house on Christmas. So I'm trying to, again, I'm trying to sell the emotion, and it's surprisingly quick to do these. And then it's a little bit of an unfair question though, because we do the outside and then we do the inside. So it just doesn't take that long on either end. And then when you do so what I did on this one is I probably made 20 or 30 little videos, each one about somewhere between 10 and 20 seconds. And then I just picked the best ones and then put them together into a movie that makes sense. I do that in iMovie. And then so what I usually do is put those 30, let's say, videos together, hit go, and then get lunch, and you know, half hour later they're done. So it's just it's amazing. And you know, sometimes the videos look like a lot better than I'm hoping for. Sometimes, like as I'm curving the camera around, I go right through a column or someone's face. I've done that. You're like, can't use that one. We're not going through people's faces. You know, we don't do that.
You're not supposed to touch your face, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like yeah. So you know, fine. You can't be exactly precise with the camera movements. You can be pretty close, but you want to, so you make it's a little trial and error. So yes, half hour, 30 movies.
Yeah. So Steve Pribble says the video is jerky at my screen. I assume it's smooth in reality. Yes, that's because of the webinar software broadcasting. You know, and not able to keep up. But on your website, on Twohy-architects.com, you have one or more.
I can also, if you want, I'll send you this. You can send it out to everybody. Do you want? I'll just send you the file. This movie.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, anyway, the movies are smooth. It's just because of the webinar software. It's
and they're beautiful. I mean, the movies look better than the virtual reality environments. The virtual reality environments are way better because, again, with the goggles on, you move and it moves, so it's amazing. But the clients absolutely love the virtual reality. They love the movies right up until they get into virtual reality. Then they want more virtual reality. It's amazing.
Okay. So there are some questions about pricing this into your architectural fees. Do you figure it as a fee, a separate fee?
Yeah, we answered that a little bit before. Like, I don't do this as an add-on yet. I've never been slow enough up until right now that I've needed to. You know, we just got a house just last week, so that we're going to be fine. interviewed for 3 jobs in the last week or so, week and a half. So, you know, I see a thaw. And I did think about taking virtual reality and separating it for people, but I'm a bit of a snob, and I just want to work with people that have that high design aspirations. So, and it really does separate the wheat from the chaff. It does, you know.
So there's a comment from Caldoon saying, I find it very difficult to get smooth transitions in Twinmotion cameras. How do you manage to get smooth transitions without the camera going crazy in speed and movement?
It's that you're 100% right. That does take some finagling. My earliest movies look nowhere near as good. So I'm not, you know, we're going to go over that in detail in the webinar. You know, not today because it takes a little bit too long. But the cinematic quality of the camera movements is something that I'm very particular about, because we're not trying to we're selling the emotion of a home. That's what I design homes. So you know, people, it's not a place where they sleep. That's not what a home is. A home is a place where, you know, dreams come true, memories last a lifetime are made. The home is that. And so it's very, very, very emotional to my clients, to me as well. And so what I want to do with the movies is you know, show them that, because I've found time and again that, you know, my clients are way smarter than I am. You know, they've made a good deal of money, whatever, but they cannot visualize to save their lives. And so I have to show them everything, spoon feed everything. And this is how I do that. So.
So let me make a point here. I know I've done animations over the years. I haven't really used Twinmotion much, which is why I'm excited that we'll be creating this course, that you're going to be teaching it with Chris, and I'll be sort of your advisor for getting it all online and set up as a, you know, membership website and everything there. One of the things that you mentioned there is that you cut together a bunch of different pieces. So I know if you tried to make one single walkthrough that goes up the front door and then into different rooms, you know, it actually gets tedious, because, you know, walking through all the rooms, the fact that you're taking 5 or 10 or 20-second snippets and just having essentially one crane movement of the camera, it comes down and then goes around here. Now you just do that 2 or 3 times until you get it working, and you render it. Now you got that one. You don't have to try to do that in conjunction with the next one. You're working in separate pieces.
Yeah, so early in my career, what I thought is that you would sort of move the camera wherever the circulation was. So you go around a couch. It's just one example. I don't do that anymore. It doesn't. You get a jerky image that's not satisfying. So now I'll do this like arc around the room, that some of it might be where the circulation is, some of it might not be, but I'm not trying to show you the circulation. I'm trying to show you the home. And so it's and you'll see the difference is the movies are very cinematic, and they look that way. So that's part of it.
Right. Okay. So let's move on. We're at 2:18, so we should get. You're going to take us to the Waterfall House in ArchiCAD and then show us the Twinmotion environment, a few little.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Great. Okay. So is that going to Chris, or is that going?
Chris.
Yeah.
Okay. Make Chris here presenter. So by the way, any of you who are interested in the course, you can go to VR for Architects with an S, vrforarchitects.com. And we have, I just put up last night a website, you know, based on images and some words that Peter had created, and you can sign up there. But we'll be talking about that a little bit more in a few minutes. So
yeah.
What do you want to go to first, Peter? The one thing we didn't get a chance to show you before was on our schedules for like light fixtures. We saw what we did with the light fixtures before, but the schedules the new schedule abilities allow you to break things up, and we always had a problem with our lighting supplier that his price would come back by room, and we always did thing by fixture
Floor.
number. So
Yeah.
I was constantly trying to count all my R2s and figure out if he had them all. Well, now I can separate them based on rooms and match them up perfectly with his price quote. So
Right.
I can quickly study it. And you might recognize this, Eric, because you helped me with this.
Right. So actually, just since we are in a technical presentation, can you open up the source view and just look at the scheme?
Yep.
All right. So the scheme settings.
I will bring that in here.
So they're going to determine what fields are being shown. So for example, you're showing in the bottom section, you're showing the home story name and the zone. So that's the room. And then you have what the elements are. Now those first two fields, if we just go cancel out of it or click OK, you've got the headline, and click on edit the headline. And so this is the first two schedule fields are being grouped. So it's basically saying lower level garage is a group, and all the elements that share lower level garage are under that headline or heading there. And then separately, you've got it sorted by story. So basically all the lower level ones happen, and then the first floor, etc. There. So that's
right. So if I just got rid of this checkbox, you'd see that's the straight up scheme setting of those 5 fields. Put this back. And that's the way I used to do it, before this button became a thing. It was just this, and I sorted things by ID, and so all the IDs were here, and you'd see a quantity of the IDs. But now that we have this ability, I can do it by room name, which is the way that.
And you can have another schedule that does do overall totals.
Correct.
So the same data is just sort of sliced and diced differently.
Yeah, that would be my older schedules, which won't populate. The reason my older schedules won't populate is because they're looking for things with a different layer than what this one uses.
Okay, cool.
All right. So
yeah, no, that's really cool because again, what that's doing is that's taking time that we used to have to spend doing schedules and putting it back in our pockets for additional design time or profits. I mean, that's really what that is. So a little bit more than just cool. That's amazing. Yeah, so this is the Waterfall House. So when Eric and I started talking about doing a course for VR for architects, I don't remember if it was your idea or if it was my idea, but one of us came up with the idea that we needed to be able to give away the files. So everybody who signs up for the course is going to get this home, the ArchiCAD file, the TWINMOTION file, and the iMovie file. So they're going to be able to do all of it and then kind of check their work and all that stuff too. So to me, it was fun to come up with an idea for a home sort of unencumbered by clients' wishes. What would I do? And I was just looking around for, I think it was a fire actually, and I found that TWINMOTION had a waterfall, and so it just inspired me to do a waterfall home. And just as a funny anecdote, so we're designing the house, and the bedroom side was going to be, the grade was going to be higher in my mind, but then when we started drawing it, so we were going to have like a basement, but it wasn't going to be a big deal. But then we have this river running underneath the house, so that didn't really work. And so we just made it into storage underneath there. And then Chris said one day, how do we get to that? Because there's no staircase and the river is on so you'd have to have a boat to get to that area. So we put those stepping stones to access the basement below the bedrooms, which I just thought was funny.
This room over here, we had no access to in plan.
Other than the boat, right?
Other than the boat. So.
Yeah, so it just kind of made me laugh a little bit, and so in any case, but you can see the house. It's a simple design, and but it's beautiful. and it really highlights the waterfall. So, so the waterfall is visible from, many rooms, obviously the main rooms and the master bedroom. And the other thing I like about this design is that as you approach the house, even though the living spaces are all glass, they're still very private because of the way that you approach the house is not where the glass is looking. So in any case, that's a little bit about the design.
Let's see. Do you want to show how the Twinmotion, how this works, or what do you want to?
Let's again, I'll sketch some idea, and like you could see that pergola above. I came up with a teeny little idea, and then Chris brings it to life with very specific modeling that you have to be devoted to that modeling. You can't go halfway on that. Same thing with the kitchen. Go ahead and zoom in on that kitchen a little bit.
Yep, I'm gonna switch over here so I can do it quicker.
Yep. Oh, and then my favorite part about this house, it almost always ends up being someone else's idea. So Chris modeled this in a way that was plenty of detail for the Twinmotion to grab onto. My fear is always that there's just not going to be enough. And so we have enough surfaces, enough textures, enough colors, and not too much. So in any case, it's just it's a nice environment.
And this is one of our custom lights. What was
zoom in on that. Zoom in on that.
Yeah. So it's basically just a bunch of cylinders of different diameters, and the one inside is the neon.
Right.
So for the Twinmotion, and then we just the metal things, and we use just a disc up here and another column here for the support.
Yeah. So but it
very
makes
simple.
It beautiful light. Yeah, makes a beautiful light.
Show us how you save it out as a Twinmotion file.
Yeah.
He can't.
I can. It's up here. It won't work from one computer to the other.
Press that button. Go ahead and press the button. And then that direct link, that's all it is. Boom, and you're done. So you hit that one button.
Okay. So are we gonna see it on your computer, Peter?
Yeah, we should probably do it on yours.
Yeah. So I have up the Twinmotion file.
All right. So made you presenter.
Okay.
So Chris, is Chris not actually using Twinmotion? You're just setting up the model for it, or what?
Yes,
I am. I do. I have Twinmotion on my computer, but Peter does all the Twinmotion work right now. And so what we'll do, I mean, he can open a second copy of this file. I'll save it and he'll open it on his computer when we're working
and
together read only, and be able to still save it to Twinmotion. So that's probably what he's going to have to do now, since I have it open here. I just have to remember, if we make any changes, I save it first and then he opens it and makes changes.
Yeah, we could do that. I don't feel a need, but we can. There's all kinds of little things that like there's fish. So we put fish in the water, which to me just has some fun. Chris built this stairs by hand, basically slabs, right? These are slabs.
Yeah.
And then we decided to do a koi pond below. You can tell me if you think it's too much. And and again, just the metal stairs and glass. And then as you go up, this is how you get into the kitchen, that doorway. I'm not going to go through the door. And now you're into the environment. So the funniest part about the whole thing is the waterfall house. The waterfall that Twinmotion wants you to do is probably 30 feet tall and only 4 feet wide. So I had to double the time making it look like anything. So it's the least successful part of the whole thing. But it's there, and you get the idea. That water level is right about the height of the first floor. I think the first floor is a teeny bit below. But you can see I hope you can, how amazing the texture of the wood ceiling is. We can get up close to it. It's amazing. And so I'll often get up close to something, and then again, you can see as it gets out of focus in the back too. It gets very cinematic that way. But up here, you can see the individual wood grain, and I'm not seeing any repeating. I don't know how they do it. Like, I'm not seeing this knot anywhere else. I don't see, so it's just as well done.
And changing the surface of that roof is a simple, like 2 or 3 clicks, right, Peter?
Yeah, one click. Let's do it right now. So we come over here, and then we pick material. So we have to find the material thing. It's at the top. And let's go ahead and make it concrete. Let's see what concrete looks like. Let's see. The polished, yeah, polished concrete. The whole thing, polished concrete. Now, let's just go out to see what that did to our house, just from a looks perspective. I don't like the way that's looking. I'd probably start futzing with it. Let's get the light on it. Where is it? Yeah, so there's the light on it. So I keep moving the sun to it. I like what we had before, so we can just file, edit, undo, and now we're back to the wood. Hold on. But let's change it to a different wood, because that's easy too. You're just picking wood, and now we'll do, it is chestnut, but let's do this cedar, see what that does. You could make an argument. How about wenge? It's a little dark for my taste, but I've seen this a lot. So
and that roof in ArchiCAD is just a slab. And so if, for instance, you wanted just the bottom side of that roof to be one material, you could do the override of materials in ArchiCAD.
Exactly.
So that when you clicked on the outside surface, it would only change the outside surfaces, but not the underside surface of your ceiling. So as whatever surfaces the object in ArchiCAD allows you to change, you can have that many different. So when he puts the paintbrush over top of it, it won't change the whole slab up every time if he's got different surfaces on each face.
Well, and again, that's Chris, making sure that I can have the freedom to change just this. And then here's our mistake. Are you ready for our mistake, Chris?
Yeah.
You ready?
I knew you'd want to show one.
So this table is the same as this. And that's probably because of me, frankly. So we got to switch that so that we can do this in a different wood than that. Do you see what I'm talking about?
Right. Yeah. The table's the same color as the ceiling.
Yeah. Which so when you zoom in on the table, and this is the kind of thing that happens. Chris was talking about this. We changed all of these to copper. And as a result, you can see it changed a bunch of things inside the, this became copper because this material in ArchiCAD was the same as this. And would we do that? But it wasn't the same as this. So it was the same as this. You can see that too.
It's a little hard to see your cursor when you.
Okay. I'll zoom in tighter.
Basically, if you look at the stove, the wall ovens, that gold color on the wall ovens is the same material as the handles on the cabinets, and it was just because that's the out of the box material.
Right.
And
so if we were really getting persnickety, which we sometimes do, this file we haven't yet, is we would change this material to something else.
We'd make a custom material. Right.
Or we would do that for the handles. It's probably actually what we would do because we're changing the handles. But but now what I'm starting to do is take is put the appliances on a layer that we can turn on and off for the 3D, so that I can put TWINMOTION refrigerators. They look better. TWINMOTION ovens. They look better. TWINMOTION ranges. They look better. So we're again, we're still modifying our workflow too. And then you can see all the lights and that neon. Now I'll get the day to be a little bit later in the day so you can see more light. You know, again, we get to first let's do dawn just for fun. You're going to see the sunrise. See it there as it comes up and comes across the sky and then goes into sunset. And those lights now, you know, they're supposed to turn on. I don't know why they're not, but these are on, obviously. These should be on. I don't know why they're not.
So one question is, what are the specs of your computer, Peter?
Yeah, so I have an iMac Desktop Pro. So I bought it a couple of years ago, but it is pretty, here, let's see about this Mac. 32 gig of RAM. It's got a great graphics card. So, and when you're working with Twinmotion, the graphics card is really important, frankly. So for when we do virtual reality, I bought a PC because virtual reality just works. I haven't gotten it to work on my Mac at all. So even though I've got maybe the top of the line Mac that you can get. So I went out and bought a PC, and when I was buying it, you know, the first and second and third question was, you know, how can I get this very specific graphics card, which is the top of the line graphics card, into, you know, so basically you buy a gaming computer. That's what you do. But again, like you can see this, you know, this could sell a somebody, and I wasn't even trying to sell somebody, but that's this house in the evening, and yeah, sign me up for that. I'll take that as an evening dinner, you know, and then, you know, the light outside out there too, and then sometimes, and I'm not sure why, we lose the neon glass, and we've lost it here. So I'm just going to go put it back in, so you can see I'm zooming into a recessed can. I'm going to go back up to here, pick neon, zoom down to neon. 1 and 2, I don't know the difference, but pick 1. So that I could do the whole roof is neon, but let's not. We'll just do that. And now that same image that we had before, page down, back up a little. You know, it just looks beautiful, and those, well, you can't see it because of the lights in the way, but the I'm not sure even how to turn those off.
Those are the symbols for the actual.
Yeah.
You have to place light sources in Twinmotion, and so
in Twinmotion, which is a pain.
When you actually make the movie, those disappear.
Exactly. So they're not in the movie, but you can kind of see them here because I didn't use the lights aren't placed very well. I try to blame Chris, but none of you believe me. But that looks like a recessed can now, you know, lighting up this table. So in any case, and then my favorite part about this house, which just kind of cracks me up a little bit, is we were, you know, having some fun, Chris and I, designing it, and then Chris came up with the idea, well, why don't you make the floor of these balconies glass? Yeah, why not? Let's do it. And so to me, it just is just super fun, and I don't know if it was Chris's design brilliance or just an offhand comment or both, but it took all of about 22 seconds to change that surface to glass, and so it just and then, you know, we light the waterfall at night, so, you know, you can kind of see that a little bit here.
Oh, Peter, there's a tip that if you type the letter G, it'll turn off those lights.
Let's do it. So just G. Perfect. Oh, we're going back. Thanks, whoever. That
was from Todd Hotchkiss. Thank you, Todd.
Oh my goodness gracious. I owe you a beer. That is the best thing I've learned today in the last week or so. So, but now you can see the, how that kind of looks, like I want to go there. I got my bottle of wine in the corner, right? I got a roaring fire. So, now I'm starting to get picky about my, but I page up just a nudge and I look down so I can still keep the wine, but I wanted to see the fire in there. I got the table and that's a view. And that's gonna, again, be why you would buy this house, is because of that view. And then when you make it three-dimensional, it sells it even more. And then let me take it to the next level. When people go on in virtual reality, what you have are the goggles, and then you have two wands in your hand. And then with the wands, you point where you want to go and you kind of teleport. So let's say, there's a little circle right here, and you would teleport to there. So you don't have to do all this walking. You're in my office. I've got about a 10 by 15 area. So you can do some walking, but you can't walk all the way to, this door, no matter what, because my office isn't as big as the house, obviously. So in any case, so you teleport. And so what I tend to do to people, because I'm mean, is I tell them to teleport onto this counter. And then I say walk off the counter, because they can. And about half the people do and half of them don't, which is hilarious, because there's no way to hurt yourself. You can't hurt yourself. But the lizard part of your brain, you've got these goggles on and you see the floor, which is now your feet are on that counter. And people are like, I don't want to get on the counter, I'll mess it up. No, you won't. But again, the lizard part of your brain is telling you things. Oh, and the entourage, all this stuff is in Twinmotion, the cup, the tablet, the whatever, pencils and all that stuff, all that's in Twinmotion. But then we go even one step further, again, in virtual reality. Let's get sort of midday. And we'll just go up through the roof here. And I'll get people to stand at the edge. Hold on, it's going to take just a second. Oh, and here's again that fireplace idea. It works every time. It's the same stone. We use it a lot.
Virtual reality goggles, if you're standing at the virtual reality goggles and you stand and look over top of this thing, you will feel like you're falling. The first time I tried doing it, and I went up to the edge where there was no railing, I lost my balance physically.
Exactly. And so I tell people to go ahead and just move a little bit forward. And so far, no one has. No one's done just that. They just won't do it with the goggles on. It's too difficult. Again, your lizard brain won't let you.
It feels so real to you that you feel like you are standing in the space, and it's something that the first time your clients see it, they will. It is definitely an impressive thing to see.
Oh yeah. There's no question.
So we have a few questions that I'd like you to just answer quickly, and then I want to just switch gears and talk a little bit about the training class and how we'll be sharing it. So answer just very quickly, yes, no, or tiny explanation. So can you let's see, where is it? Backgrounds. There was something. Can you put in backgrounds for the actual site, in Twinmotion?
You could do that. We've not done it a lot because the file size gets big. But the answer is yes. You kind of have to be devoted to that. But Twinmotion also has a location thing. I can just show very quickly. Like specifically if it's anywhere near a city, you do this context and anywhere in the world. So this is, I'm assuming, France. And so we could say our site is right there, and it would make our site, and it would do all the buildings because it's modeled France. So we have a project going up on the Jersey Shore, and we looked in there, and there wasn't a lot of Twinmotion background of this very isolated part of the Jersey Shore, sort of near Mantoloking for people. That it's So we didn't get a lot of help, but oftentimes Chris will just with models, very simple models, put in neighboring houses and that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Next.
Yeah, we did that on the one house we showed earlier, the aerial view.
Yep.
I mass modeled the houses that were next door.
Mhm.
By the way, Roderick says hello, Peter. Roderick and Peter are members of the Architect Marketing Institute Mastermind Program, both expert marketers as well as expert ArchiCAD users, and leveraging all of this
And
visualization
TWINMOTION too.
to win projects and get some really great clients who just value high design. So let's see. Yeah, so there are a lot of other questions, but let's make sure we have some time to talk about the training course. So let me just set this up. As all of you know who are on this call, on this session, I've worked with ArchiCAD for a very long time and have taught a lot of different things myself. But in the last few years, I've often partnered up with people like Roderick, who I mentioned, who taught the BIMX course a few years ago. And Andreas Lettner, who taught Cinerender, and Tim Ball in the UK, who taught some detailed modeling. So I love working with people like Peter and Chris, who are experts in areas that I know the basics of. I know what you probably can do, but you are using it all the time. So we have the opportunity, those of you who are interested in taking your ArchiCAD model further. And actually, for people who are using Revit or even probably SketchUp, you can do this, because the class is going to be on Twinmotion and on virtual reality, going from Twinmotion into the goggles. But it seems like from what I've talked with you, Peter, that maybe 3/4 of it is going to be Twinmotion related, and maybe a relatively small part of the goggles. And the one reason why that's important, well, goggles are they cost like $500, $1,000, thereabouts. But right now you can only use them on PC, unfortunately. Right. So you can do Twinmotion on Mac or PC, and you can use ArchiCAD or Revit or other tools to get into Twinmotion. But the goggles, Peter, you're a Mac user and you just decided you had to have it, so you bought a PC gaming machine.
Guilty. Take me away.
Yeah. So if you want to get projects like what Peter does, where it's, they may start in a few $100,000, but they're often $2 million and $5 million houses, then it, spending a couple of $1,000s for a gaming machine is.
Yeah. So the way I look at it is I think this pandemic has given us a chance to kind of step back. I know for my own personal is, we lost about, I don't know, probably 70% of our work, something like that, all like gone. And so it gave me a chance to pivot a little bit and create the course, but it also gave me time to think, like, what would I do and what have I done? And so what Chris and I have done is our strategic pandemic project is to create all these models in Twinmotion that we can then put the goggles on. So we've gone back to some. I've done more and more Twinmotion models, and people just want to see it. So once the pandemic is over, we're going to have happy hour at Twohy Architects and invite like 20 people, and just have them put goggles on, and you can't not talk about it. So if I were in the position that I was up until last week, where I had more time on my hands and not a lot of cash, what can you do? And so you can create, like, to go back in time and put into Twinmotion your 3 favorite projects. Put those into Twinmotion now, and then when the next client walks through, the potential client walks through the door, then if you can't put the goggles on them because you need them to sign up before you can afford the goggles, but then you show them the movies, right? And they'll be very cinematic, they'll be beautiful, all that kind of stuff. But then when the second potential client walks through the door, because the first one will sign up, and now you've got that commission money, so you get the virtual reality goggles. When that second one walks in, you just put the goggles on and shut your mouth. There's nothing to say. As they're interviewing you, you interview them, and just find out what they want. And then you say, okay, I got these 3 projects and I love all 3. I would do any of those 3 all over again. And they want kind of something like number 2. So you put that project up on Twinmotion, flip it over to VR and say, put on these goggles, and then just let them walk around and show them, oh, now let's go to the kitchen. Oh, this is amazing. You know, you'll get that. And it's truly a different experience. And frankly, I'm a little bit surprised at how different it is, because you know, when I put people in, when I go into virtual reality, it's not really a thing. You know, it's fun, but I'm not learning anything. But when my clients, even the clients who've seen these videos, you know, these very cinematic, very beautiful videos, they learn. And oh, I didn't realize the couch was so big or so small or so close to the whatever or so far away from whatever. And it's like, well, it's in the video. Like, well, how did you not see that? And they're continually learning. It literally is a whole other level. I did not think it would be, but it is. Again, for people who can't visualize in 3 dimensions. So, and I can't remember when I couldn't visualize in 3 dimensions. That's not I don't know if it was ever the case.
So, Peter, can I just give people a 2-minute tour of the web page?
Yeah, please do. Yeah.
So you should be seeing my screen now, right? There. Okay. So vrforarchitects.com. You know, basically talking about this is a nice little animation here that, you know, if I play it, obviously it's going to be in the small thing here. Jump into it, but you can blow it up to full screen here. Now, basically, what I've been talking about this with Peter and with Richard Petrie, my partner in the Architect Marketing Institute, about VR and what it can do for a firm in terms of business. I mean, it's one thing to say, hey, I just feel really excited about it. It's really cool. You know, it's just fun, etc. But what does it do for business? Well, it can attract clients that are passionate about design. It can transform clients that focus on the budget to ones that all of a sudden are passionate about the design, because you're now seeing things in ways that they couldn't. It gives you a distinct competitive advantage. With ArchiCAD, you already have that, but this takes it another level. And it can allow you to raise your fees without doing a lot more work. When Peter and I were talking just before this session, said, you know, what % extra work do you put in to make the Twinmotion? And you were saying like 5% more than what you were doing. All right. So in other words, you're already doing all this work. And if you just add a little bit more, all of a sudden you get this beautiful images. And then to do it with the goggles, aside from just having the right type of PC and graphics card and the goggles, you say it's like 1% more?
Yeah. Well, as soon as you got the Twinmotion, you have the virtual reality. So.
Yeah. All right. So basically, you're already doing most of it. If you do just a little bit more and you learn, you know, a little bit, you can be dangerous. All right. And Peter has an interesting way of describing, you know, cave painting technology. You know, so basically putting an image on a flat surface like a cave became things on paper and pencil and ink and CAD. And even though BIM is 3D, it's still flat, you know, on a computer screen. And even in ArchiCAD, you know, the visualization, although it's good, people just don't get it until you add some of the stuff that they recognize, the lighting, the feeling of that. And so Peter talks about, you know, drawings just not communicating. You know, you have your client's mind, they're looking at it, and they just aren't seeing what's in your mind. So, so here's the training, and we have very little minimal information here, but it's currently planned for 3 classes, running in May 11th, 18th, and then skipping Memorial Day to go June 1st. We're going to price it at like $500, $497, and then Peter said, well, let's do an early special, or let's do the COVID, you know, the Corona special, $299, and then just as a special offer for people like you who are on this webinar, $249. So you're going to get training from Peter and Chris. I'll be helping here and there. You'll be getting access to the recordings and access to the files that are like for that Waterfall House. And so you can have your own Waterfall House. You can live there in your
Copyright. Copyright.
You know, here's a little, you know, repeating GIF showing that, and a little bit about each of us. For those of you who don't know Richard Petrie, he's my partner in the Architect Marketing Institute, and he has helped Peter, as well as many other architects like Roderick, just up-level the marketing to the point where now you probably don't entertain a house if it's under.
Well, yeah. So for me, I do a wide range of costs, but I'm very particular about the people I work with. Just no jerks. Sorry. So I've said no to very, very large projects, because they were jerks. I don't have time for that. So so for me, I still say no to more work than I say yes. In the pandemic, that's changed. It's probably a little bit more to the yes than to the no, but I still haven't signed up a jerk. I haven't signed up a jerk in a while. So
right. Okay. So by the way, if you want to get another glimpse of this before the class, there will be a free webinar that Peter and Chris will be presenting. I'll be helping out on that. If you click on that button, it'll take you to just a very, very simple sign up for the free webinar, also done through GoToWebinar here. And that'll go a little bit more into the mechanics of these things and just the rationale and things like that. But you've seen already the essence of it. You've seen how the ArchiCAD model, while it's very good, and for us, it's easy to understand what's going on. We cut sections, we just move around through it. But for the client, it's just such a huge difference when you take it into Twinmotion. And I haven't experienced the goggles, but I take your word for it that it really is, tiny bit more effort and a very significant difference in the experience. If you have questions specifically about this course, you can click this button here. It'll open up an email in your Gmail or whatever system to send that to info@vrforarchitects.com. I'll be handling that or passing it along to Peter or Chris if need be. So let's see if there are any final questions, because we are at the 2-hour mark here. So I'm just looking. Yeah.
I do have to say I was sweating that we wouldn't have enough stuff to talk about. But anyway, Chris, we did it.
Yeah.
Okay, so there is a point. Dan Wyckoff, by the way, you should get in touch, Peter, because he's the one who is shared a bunch of things, including how if you import by texture, it will group textures. Try breaking textures by surface, makes a larger file, but you have more flexibility with textures. So he's made a number of technical points here, and Substance from Adobe makes better textures. But he says the HTC Vive headsets can run on Apple, but you need either a Pro desktop with the right graphics card or a laptop with an eGPU through Thunderbolt will not run on iMac. So we'll see. Maybe Dan actually could be help us to work out.
I have an iMac Pro and I could not get them to work. So
right, well, you have to use this eGPU, which is an external graphics card, not cheap. I don't know, $500 or something like that you have to face it. Okay, so Mark Renz has already signed up. Can't wait. Steve Pribble tells you, Peter, you might remember Steve from the Las Vegas event. He's a Los Angeles architect I've worked with in ArchiCAD users. He says, your new shingle, no jerks allowed.
Exactly. That's it is.
All right. David Proctor says, Peter, can you tell me a bit about your black guitar?
Yeah, so it's a Gretsch. So for my sister is a songwriter and singer, and she's a DJ on Sirius XM. She's really cool. Anyway, so we jam every once in a while, and she's a folk person. I always play like blues rock. That's all I can do. These fingers do blues rock. They don't do anything else. I don't know why. But the black one is it's a Gretsch. And the reason I bought it is it sounds just as good when I plug it in as when I don't. And I'm in the office, so I don't really want to plug it in. But on the weekends, I do. And I've got an amp down here too, and it gets a little bit obnoxious in here, which is a ton of fun for me. So.
Mm-hmm. So we are at the 2-hour mark. This has been fun. Chris, Peter, really excited to be working with you on this project. I'm glad we were able to see it in the context of ArchiCAD user, where we could actually look at some of the details of how you model that roof and how you do this and how you do that. there's so much to learn in ArchiCAD. And then of course this new frontier in terms of, well, Twinmotion, somebody said, how do you get Twinmotion? I think there's, want to just say, how do you get Twinmotion, period? Is if you have.
Yeah, so if you're an ArchiCAD, what do they call that?
Arca Plus or subscription maintenance program.
It's free. It's how much? Free. It's free. If you're not an Arca Plus member, I think it's $249 right now. So like an absolute steal. When I bought it 2.5 years ago, it was like $3,000. So this version, the 2020 version, is so far superior to what I bought 3 years ago that it's not even funny. I mean, it's literally not funny.
Yeah. So hooray for Graphisoft teaming up with the people who make Twinmotion. And it's just flabbergasting to me how fast you can just move around and you can adjust things. I mean, Atlantis was always pretty cool like that, but this is just got so much, I think, more nuance as far as I'm concerned. So we'll finish up for now. If you have any questions, of course, you can just email me, support@bobrow.com. But if you have questions specifically about the course, info@vrforarchitects.com, or just go to vrforarchitects.com where you can sign up. So the free webinar will be May 4th. You can tell your colleagues to watch that. You can also catch this recording. I'll post the recording of this hopefully within a day or two.
Can I end with just one really awful joke?
Oh, absolutely. Go ahead.
So we chose, of course, the date that we chose because Obi-Wan Kenobi always told us, "May the 4th be with you."
All right. Hold for applause. Hold for groans. Okay. So may the 4th be with all of you. May we all stay safe and healthy.
Yeah. Let's end on that. That's much better. Thank you, Eric.
All right. And for those of you who are in my ArchiCAD training course, the Best Practices 2020 and the coaching program, I will reconnect up on a separate webinar, and I'll be opening up your files and answering your questions and helping you with your ArchiCAD directly as usual. So I'll be doing that within, let's say 5 minutes. Thanks, Peter.
Great to be here.
And thank you for everyone who, Dan Wyckoff, the SketchUp, TextureClub.com, and the all the information that we got. So thanks, everyone. Thank you.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.